Every person has a right to own property, either individually or in association with others. Article 26(1) of Uganda's 1995 Constitution makes property ownership fundamental, thus enshrining it in the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. That right is well enjoyed by Mary Odongo, a 49-year-old resident of Alwol Parish, a Mach sub-county, Lira district in northern Uganda. Mary Odongo got married in 1986. When her husband died in 2003 as one of the wives, she inherited the property she had already been using together with her son. She now continues to farm the land as a source of livelihood and was recently trained to ensure that it is passed on to the next generation. Mary's case in exercising rights over her property is the exception rather than the rule. Like most African countries, Ugandan society is patriarchal in nature. That means that men assume a dominant role in making decisions concerning access and control over resources. This leads to persistent gender inequality that affects mostly women's social position, access to and control of valuable resources, particularly land.
Uganet responded to a call by United Nations Women. The project needed to address women property and inheritance rights in the context of HIV and AIDS. Very many a times, women bear the brunt of the epidemic. As we stand today, the statistics of Ugandan women that are HIV positive is at 8.3% compared to the 6.0% for men, just to show that women are more prone to the HIV epidemic.
In post-conflict northern Uganda, the situation is even murkier because the region bears the highest prevalence of HIV/AIDS in the country. And after 20 years of internal conflict and displacement, returning communities often conflict over reclaiming property they owned before displacement. Since 1998, local systems of justice, which are male-dominated, have been allowed to determine land disputes in more than 80% of Uganda's land, which is owned customarily. Women, particularly widows, and those living with HIV/AIDS, frequently find their rights abused, with no one to stand in their defense, thereby worsening their vulnerability.
The double standards that society has for women and men.
Ugandan Network on Law, Ethics and HIV/AIDS, Uganet, has been implementing holistic empowerment activism and legal support, HEAL project, in post-conflict northern Uganda, targeting districts of Lira and Masindi to empower women through legal protection and engagement of community leaders so as to influence legal processes and to enlist their support to stand up for the rights of women in property and inheritance. Uganet has been engaging these influential opinion leaders in meetings on issues of law reform and women vulnerability. Bridging forums have been organized where duty bearers, who include the clan leaders, local councils and the police, and the rights holders, mainly women, especially those living with HIV/AIDS and girls, have come together to openly discuss issues concerning women and girls' property rights.
It was so good in a way that we first had to train the women separately and get their different issues, and the LCs and clan leaders their different issues. And when we had a bridging forum, which included women and the LCs together, all these issues were resolved because the clan members were there to respond to the issues raised by women.
This process has been necessary because under the customary law, families own land and clan leaders wield a lot of influence over land-related matters. It was during these meetings that women got a chance to speak directly to the clan leaders and other duty bearers.
habwokuba omukazi nyowe nteekaniza amaka gange hati nyizire iwe okutandika kugamba nguki ngwa abintu byaitu then bagaruka bakomplaininga nti omwisiki obwakuba tungire ebintu ebyo naija natunga omusajja naswerwa then hata tungire sheya ye naija netwarwa ki kirani y'omusajja nibakomplaininga batiyo so hati nororera kimu nti ki ebintu ebyo biriyo bakutiina nibagamba omwisiki ono turamuhereza part of the land nka sheya ye obwaratunga omusajja ajja kugenda nayo ekikumanyisa abaana b'omusajja ori kirani endi ejja kwija ekore ki eheltinge that property.
The clan leaders and other duty bearers were able to listen to the women and respond from their own perspective.
Uruganda ni Uruganda. Ogalia ku Uruganda rugayizibwa omwojo rundo musajja. Mwana ozaira ali obwojo nwagali Uruganda. Baitu mwana obwisiki tagalia Uruganda. Aleto Uruganda ku Rugahandi kwija bwija. Koyiro twene twikiraniza mwana obwisiki okubanga anjani omuruganda orwo nanyewe ise nkamumanya kurungi nti mwana mwesigwa nibo nkusora kumuherezaho omugabo kandi omugabo bungu muhereza tinku mwikiriza aleta basita baje bataye kihamba omugabo nkumuha baitu nimanya ngugwe atali kuleta uruganda rundo rwa basita kuja kutaya kihamba
omojo taswire omwisiki aswirwe omwisiki yangayineyo waiba garukiro wange no mwana obyazaire kuri runda abana bayazaire kuri ono moja kuzara aheru wo mwisiki mkunzi omwana ogwa kumuleta nkumuchungura ne sente zange na taha mukika obolo wakubazaire wa muhara wange wakuli tali wa hano tali mujukuru wange wo muka mujukuru wange wa heru.
They also tackled related issues like widow inheritance.
Titi merigera. Amenu in chuni peti ameto lonore de jotia di ni timngo elahar kere pien geni nyome kere le matehere mere lahere anu in chuni po winyo.
By the time such meetings would conclude, communities would gain a better understanding of women and girls' property rights issues in the context of HIV/AIDS, and such insightful discussions during gatherings would bring to the front community members ready to advocate for those rights.
Anu nge piano nu rek pe onu angeo anu nge chibori yoganeta me kubni daho unyomonto keda nyira me tiepashu tikere twero me beri kom jamewa karbedi nu rek andan yanga monni daho mir bet kere twero etro yogane daho medda ngechi keteme da gufume kubni jono dang tikere twero merio an achala dong ulunga tebedo kere I training ana teacher meddo achala atela ate ulo kere jo ameti community meko begini mir worto era monto mir worto era nyira ginang migi jama meti pashukano no ginang obet kere ngo kere twere ye teacher me won me ulo kere jo ameti community
omuntu muguru safire nakore kiramo nagama nti nyowe bundamara kufa abihwa bona bababinge hati nyonka abanyikara nyene kihabuzo mutima gwange kigamba asirekera gambira abihwa babinge bagende nkaha katagambira ho baragenda hati nikinyikara mu mutima gwange hati baito buna obutwabe turi mukwega nibatwegesa nagamba otyo kigarukiremo kihabuzo cyabere kita mu mutima gwange kandi namanya narabane kizibu nkecyo rundi ecyagwiremo nkecyo njya kuba nimwe kurembera kumucha office ya Uganeti abuko bakatwe namba batugana na office yabo hweri ekyo nahura kinyambire muno kanyomo ayina ho bwe kurembeze mu kanisa njya kuba ni nyamba abantu rundi mu kanisa rundi na heru.
We are trying to let the community know that women and children living with HIV also have rights to their property like any other person has rights to property. That has been the main thing we have been trying to make the community know. In our community here, it's believed that property is not supposed to be owned by a woman, and it becomes worse when that woman is HIV positive.
Sarah Oyet, A resident of Obutodai Parish, a Amat sub-county in Lira district, is one such example of a widow whose family members turned against her in order to grab her property. Her husband died in 1993, having bought a piece of land from his uncle in 1986. In 2008, her father-in-law demanded the land back.
Ikaradong wan welo lobo shota mende gi wai puru ko porno peye. Ikado chwara to mujie tamne gam lobo ko tino me adong ko ende mit lobo mer kwene do borre. Den chinare wan welo lobo no titidi. Petwaro welo lobo sha. Iti kara do eno ko bakitana kuni china na kana ya nundang valo mere tie. Le do wan no puru jama pol le dari lobo na chaka na pira welo na ya rio. It was 1996. Kanama welo kede lobo nasha. Na ka dong me chwara to in 1993 no do lobo chabedo mewa. Anda te ko beni anda ri lobo ni da welo.
When she later attended Yugonet training on property and inheritance rights, she approached the legal officer for advice. Since the land was customarily owned, she was advised to go back and call a meeting involving the local councils and the clan members.
Training ko bwane daha meshwara to tikede twera mele yo jema me meshwara to weho. Eka iponya cha to gwen ka jema do bete wan tikede loya wa me chung pe wa me twero konyo wa ko me pidu. Kara don ano nu ponya da du chendo gino yo tio yela ni ata dok dongo gi. Ante ko begini uri ker shingu ping muje cha ka to mer ker shingi odon ka da ker shingi an ka cha ker to na kere uchade da ker shingi. Kado tikito ananu oponya me ko ba ni anati kere twero mele yolobo na kado wuni yela wunu anti kere apilida me chung pera me toro konya pidu lobo na.
George Okello is one of her brothers-in-law who took her side during the clan meeting.
Clan leader binu tatemo titigi ginang kongo tatemo niang mani mo atu mi ari aboro ento yonge mo atu mi ari para ciel dokot ya ko kella yela en sia me dong wando te donye ye ten ko ni miro tere kot en kara me danon te bil punywa arwan winyo te bil lokerwa punywa